Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Platform, talking AI data readiness with Trisha Merriam. How you doing, Trisha?
I'm great. How are you today, Chris?
I'm doing good. Enjoying all of these, more and more conversation and dialogue popping up about leaders being interested in this conversation. They're not saying it like that, but they are interested in figuring out AI and what it means for their business. So I'm glad we get to spend this time each week to talk through these things because I think in most cases it will not work more so than ever if the leader like is not bringing it into the organization um, from a strategic perspective in a way that we really haven't experienced before. It's been easier than ever, but also like mm, more complex than ever, like to actually deliver it to the complexity of an organization. Nico's been saying it recently. AI, um, similar to how we think about video games or software or maybe even sports, like easy to learn at this point, getting harder to get really, really good at, right? As agents come in and this whole, as it continues to get better. So, um, what are you excited to dive into today? Or what's been on your mind since last week?
Well, we talked about getting together today to really dive into how leaders can actually drive adoption of AI inside their orgs. And I guess the use case or the scenario that we're looking at is you've got an org and a team that is maybe kind of dabbling, and you've got some people maybe over here who are doing it a lot, and you've got other people that aren't doing anything, and kind of a wake up call to leaders that here's an endpoint that you want to get to, and you're not going to get, like, you're the guy or the gal that this is your team, and their acceleration to this endpoint of fully utilizing AI. You're the driver. It really is, as in so many, like moon launch, like there's a new point in space we want to get to. You're the one that has to drive this.
The way I'll sometimes say it, especially when it talks about organizational structures and trying to, when we have to talk about who owns what inside of an organization, especially as it relates to technology implementation. Um, I think of the CEO or the leader is responsible for setting the course, like vision, North Star, stuff like that, but also resourcing the organization. Those are the two like primary responsibilities. Communicating both of those things, if you want to call it like a number three. Um, and it's very hard for me right now to see a path where to do that, like to do the resource part. Like if you haven't built something yourself with AI, like I don't know how you can do that part effectively, right? And but let's get clear because I think you said it well in terms of like there is an outcome here that uh, I don't know that people can define what that outcome is very well right now. If do you have a good answer if a leader were to ask you right now, like I want to use AI for my organization or we need to use AI, like is there an easily defined outcome that they need to like put on paper?
like what that looks like a year from now. Like right now, my org isn't really using AI. This is what it'll look like a year from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as is the case with so many times I ask you a question like this, it's going to be very organization dependent. However, um, eh, I'm like, however, and I think I'm jumping into a totally different topic, but one of the things I'm thinking is that you've your point of the user has to like that leader has to use AI, period. You can't lead this organization to this future if you're not at least trying. And you, Chris, have a course on getting your is it just your data or is it actually like getting your org ready for AI?
So I'd say most of the non HubSpot stuff is getting your org ready.
Mm-hmm.
Um, most of the HubSpot stuff fronts as getting your data and context ready, but it's also getting your org ready as well.
Mm-hmm.
I got to present with Casey yesterday about value for scoring and lead scoring. And it was interesting as the presentation came together. Like there was, of course, she was giving updates about how you can do these things in HubSpot now easier, better, also with more complexity. And which means I got to come in and talk about like unified views and value path. And that mechanism of being able to find a place to simplify so the rest is not so damn hard, even if it means tricking each other across sales and marketing into something like the conversations that we need to have to support each other in this moment, right? Like, which is basically what unified customer view is. Like, can we, like, if you're marketing and you show up, hey, sales, we know you don't like the scores. Can you have a conversation with us so we can make the scores better? Or we can send you better leads, or like so we can do our job better for you. That's a trap every time, right? Like if sales even shows up, right? If they show up, the focus is on how can marketing do their job better, right? Which sales may or may not be interested in. But when you can put an outcome like unified customer view that everybody wants, and it's really hard to argue against why it's a good idea, right? All of a sudden, a lot of these things melt away, right?
Mm.
And a lot of what AI provides right now is when you feel it, when you build yourself, things like the mythical unified customer view all of a sudden become believable in a way like we could get there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's where I think a lot of setting the vision and communicating the vision is making people believe in your organization that this is a good idea, that this is an outcome we can achieve, but you have to describe the outcome for them in every single like vantage point, right? Or else you're going to have uncertainty. And what I think the outcome, like if we can help leaders simplify it in a way this is infrastructure for the organization, like electricity, right? Like if I was a leader who did not use electricity every day and I didn't really understand how it worked, it would be super hard for me to like think about, you know, the amount of power requirements and how much that's going to cost and like all of these other decisions that need to be made in terms of resourcing the organization, making sure everybody. I mean, this happened with the internet a lot, right? When remote work became a thing, like, yeah, I could work at home, but you want to give me like a $500 laptop And are you willing to pay for the bandwidth that's going to allow me to have good video calls? Right? Like that was a whole different like resourcing layer that needed to be taken care of. This is the latest. So if you're not doing it yourself, you're going to have a hard time understanding it. But also, if you can't think about it in that context, you will not be able to communicate it like effectively, in my opinion, because you will have, there's always early adopters, the messy middle, and laggards. Leaders, just like they would if they were to decide that they were going to switch from Microsoft to Google Workspace, right? Like your team might not be ready or might not know exactly the ins and outs of how to use Google Workspace, but it is now built into the infrastructure and you're going to have to learn how to use Gmail. You don't just get to go use Outlook because you like it better, right? And that's the kind of that's what leaders have to provide here, like in terms of the remit that I can't think of the word right now, but the new policy of the org is like, we're going to use AI to get our job done. And we're going to, even if we don't know all the ins and outs right now, it's going to be this layer. So there's not any job where it's not going to touch. It's going to impact everyone. And if you don't get alignment up front that this is going to happen and everybody needs to believe it can, like it's challenging, I think. And a lot of leaders, I don't think they know how to go beyond, right? Let's use AI to do better. Right.
Yeah. So there's hurdles on different ends, right? There's a hurdle on the end of, you've got a leader who actually is using AI and sees the value and wants his whole team to embrace it. That leader needs strategies for bringing the people who are fearful and avoidant into a place where they feel safe to start using it and empowered to start using it. But for the leaders who aren't even there yet, they have a wholly different challenges. They need to they got to start using it themselves. Which is why I brought up your course, because I think you have a course that does that for leaders. Like, however they get there, they need to get there. And like the time that they need to get there is yesterday. One of the things I love to tell people is sort of a metric to think about is like, what is the cost of waiting? Like if you wait another 6 months to get around to making this a priority, what is the cost of waiting to do that? How much more revenue could you be making in 2027 if you were completely ready to do XYZ by July 1st of this year? You know? So they need to be doing it right away. And so the reason it has to come from the leader is there's an agency that I work with, and I've been telling the owner of that agency for a while, like, Claude this, Claude that, Claude this, Claude that. You know, but he sent out a message to all of his employees today and said, look at this thing I built in Claude. What do you think? Should we get a license for everybody in the org? Like, they're probably going to have that set up by next week because it was his idea. And then he showed how to apply it to their own processes. So it's in a way that'll make sense to them internally. Has to come from the leader.
Yeah. I mean, I think the classic first layer here is like anything that a leader wants to do. Like if you're doing it yourself and you can be the example of how you want the thing done, like that's definitely layer one we're talking about. This is where the concept of AI orchestration and AI native and RevOps starting to become a thing. Like we still have to find a way to know that AI and technology is not just magically going to solve human-based problems, right? So when we think about what an AI orchestrator does, unless you have a similar human orchestrator, like that works hand in hand with that person, right? The AI orchestrator, I think, needs to make a decision like, okay, leader, you get it. You've built something. You're excited about it. I've built something. I'm excited about it. These 3 or 4 other leaders, they don't, they're nodding and smiling, but they still have no idea. They haven't built anything yet. So can you design or communicate or lead the leader to say, all right, fellow leaders, you're going to build something too. Come up with any use case so that we can all understand that what's at stake here. And then like that unification of the understanding, and honestly, there's so many immeasurables like fun being had, joy, uh, like whatever your context is for your team and your part of the organization, you're going to think of ideas immediately. And that kind of energy is, I think, required to do this kind of massive change. But it's different, like this time, in terms of just going through an RevOps workshop, and we were going through decision frameworks around like what needs to be done to get this right. And almost all of it is the same as any SaaS implementation, right? Like get your people aligned, make decisions like, should we automate? Should we not automate? Do we even need to do that thing? Right? It's all the same, right? So if we don't
Clearly documented processes that
right,
everybody has access to.
right. If we don't get better at explaining or helping them understand the outcome, this is where I don't think we can explain it in any kind of way that's going to result in their understanding. That's why they need to build. They need to like try it, do it themselves, right? It's easy to step back and see. It's like, oh, this is just like any other technology implementation. So it's going to be just as hard, just as much work. And everywhere I look, everybody's talking about the risk. The risk looks higher, right? And the difference is AI can help with everything, but you still have to do all that stuff, like having the discovery calls or getting the team together to talk about process. Now we record that, work with AI to document it immediately. And now you have an outcome within an hour that might have taken weeks in the past. So if you have access to that, the challenge becomes, can you get the right people in the room to have that conversation and feel psychologically safe while they have that conversation? Which means you got to solve for random ass politics. And
What did you say? Brand and mass?
I said random ass politics.
Random ass politics. Okay, yes. Thank you.
And and feelings of replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you don't, and this is where if you're just sitting back and you built your thing and you're like, oh yeah, AI is going to be great for us. I'm going to tell everybody about it. And now they're all going to get seats. Like, hey guys, use AI to do your job. If that's where you stop, you have not covered those two bases because you probably don't have the culture like this. Where if you have these cultures where you don't have politics, everybody's psychologically safe. You know, how many times have you heard about the Google study where that was the number one like factor of successful teams, right? So all these things are the same. And if you don't address them, like AI, amplifies the outcome, negative or positive, right? So
that might be behavior adoption number one, or behavior number one that accelerates AI adoption is, first and foremost, how do you make your team feel safe about using AI? Or just the presence of AI in their lives. How do you make them feel safe? And part of that is helping them to understand, and you better not be a liar about it, that you value them, as somebody who is knowledgeable about your business, has legacy context, like the context about their business knowledge is the most important thing about them, so that they can then help you all teach collectively your AI models to do more, do better.
yeah, which is why I think an AI orchestrator is somebody who needs to put humans and AI in the best position to be successful, which means you have to know how humans and AI work together, and the processes that are the same and the processes that are different, and then be the translator likely for the leader, who needs to be aware that if we don't solve psychological safety and we still can't like figure out marketing and sales alignment, like AI is not fixing that stuff, right? So can we challenge the organization to get together in a room and have the marketing and sales conversation we all know needs to be had? And then an AI orchestrator gets the conversation very quickly, turns around the documentation to make sure everybody knows this is going to be different, right? And that's where you start to break into like the overwhelm, right? It can't just be another meeting, another conversation, right? And something that came up in the last session was evidence, right? Like being able to show evidence is one piece of it, but this is where like the show and tell and practical nature of this, I think, overcomes the challenge to evidence that is, oh yeah, something over there was working great for you. You've already figured it out. That's not going to work for me. Like there's a trust element, right? And you mentioned don't lie about it, right? Like trust is everything here. Like, and luckily you have AI as a colleague now that can make it real easy to deal with all of these outcomes if you just ask for help, right? So um this like kind of like workshop cohort, I think, is the best way to think about it. But honestly, I'm looking for any kind of feedback here, like whatever way that this can be delivered that people are willing to consume. Like let's try it out, because what we're seeing all those different leader types where they've figured it out, they've built it themselves, they're excited about it, and then they think about the change management required to bring it into the organization, and they're stuck, right? Or they haven't even thought about it, and they just say, all right, everybody use AI,
Mhm.
right? Or there's leaders that like, oh, I've got people for that, right? I've got somebody in charge of HubSpot. Go ahead. Like I approve the project, right? You get the budget, like do what needs to be done. We need to do something with AI, but I'm the CEO and I've got other stuff to be doing, right? Um, Whatever we can do to break through to help people understand, like it really doesn't have to take that long, and it doesn't have to be as complex as we're used to. It's just like a new mental model in terms of there's no, if you want to fully leverage AI for your organization, there's no dipping your toe in the water here. If you do that, you won't get the results that are going to excite people and are easily shared and easily built upon. Because it often clashes with traditional processes. Like an example I like to talk about, if you use AI to optimize sending emails, right? And that's like, I go to GPT and it helps me make my emails better, right? That's not AI native. That's GPT helping me do industrial age things, right? Versus figuring out how I cannot have to send email at all anymore. How can I communicate in a way where everything happens on the call and there's not so much follow-up needed to decipher everything that was said? And now all of a sudden email threads get lower and we can spend more time being humans to each other, right? That's an AI native approach, in my opinion, right? So that mindset shift, again, most of this flies in the face of everything we've been taught for the last 30 years. Like, optimization is not the answer here because we've never had AI. Like, so what are you even optimizing?
The other thing that's unique about this is that while there is a pretty big AI skills gap across individuals, still pretty new. Even to those like you, who are killing it, it's still pretty new to you. So it's something that, like, collectively, we're all going through it. We are all going through it. And what I love about your kind of workshop and cohort model is just this idea of like a collaborative pool of people who are your resources for figuring stuff out together. You started a Slack channel for all the value first contributors to use and talk to each other. And so I kind of consider that as one cohort of AI learners. And I see the conversations that you and Oaks and Ryan Ginsberg and Nico are having like on a daily basis. And even if I don't participate in them, I'm getting something from them just by like, that thing, that thing. And I know that you guys are getting a lot of benefit from just like, I did this thing today, it worked. I did this other thing yesterday, it didn't work. It is such a unique opportunity to learn from each other's mistakes, like fail faster, or you can fail so much faster because you can just like, I don't have to make that mistake because Chris made that mistake yesterday. He told me about it. And now and that's why there's just such an opportunity for collective learning and sharing. And the fact that we're all kind of going through it, it's a unique point in time to be able to create a structure like that. And I think every organization needs to have that. Like if I were a leader, I'd be putting all my teams into these cohorts, being like, okay, you guys are launching this week, you guys are launching 2 weeks from now, whatever it is. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. And it really does have to be collaborative. And that's where like I don't think the individual, like we started last year. I think you're one of the first people interested in the conversation about it, was like, all right, MCP, we're gonna do a 90-minute session for executives about what the hell MCP means, right? And just this individualized, like it helps you get better as an individual, right? And using AI and creating your own stack, right? But being able to deliver it into an organization is completely different. And I think that like one of the challenge, right? We don't know what AI native should actually look like for us. I don't think I'm making, I have a thesis that it should be a new layer and it's like a new operating system of your business, right? But nobody's actually proven proven this out, right? We hear a lot of case studies of people getting let go and people planning on doing stuff and people not touching code anymore and like all these random, case studies. But what does it look like actually built into the business? The only places you can really see it are the 1, 2, 3 person organizations that are, exploding. That doesn't help legacy organizations that really want to change and have all of this organizational inertia to get over, right? Uh, every vendor is selling new versions of their solutions, which are still fragmented. All these point tools, like all the DNA is for optimization, right? So the likelihood that you can transform, it's similar to HubSpot can be delivered in very different ways, right? If you just use it as a marketing and sales CRM, it might help you win some more deals, but it's not going to change your organization dramatically like it would if you have it as a customer platform. It's like full end-to-end, like data, context, AI, humans working together.
If
right?
you're just using it to replace the spreadsheet that your sales team is using, it's not going to be transformative.
Right. And the only, like, everybody that's around to help you do this right now, the business model is designed to create dependency, right? I refer to it as the managed services trap sometimes, right? Like any of the projects that you've heard about where I don't know how to change the form on a website because there's a developer for that, but it sucks because I have to go to the developer every time we need to make a change to our form, right? Like that world, that still exists. Like those relationships still exist, even though there's all of the ease of use of website management available to everyone right now. Those relationships still exist because there's a learned helplessness that came from this SaaS era, right? And when you think about like what I'm describing about getting a leader to be able to bring this into the organization, where the mental model changes, a bunch of the mental model is, oh, we could have this capability. Like we don't need to rely on others necessarily, right? Maybe we should add this capability because now it's accessible to everybody. I don't need to hire a bunch of software engineers or IT, with 10 years of experience just to build out digital infrastructure. When you get to the end of the line and there's a working proof of concept that everybody built themselves, not that I delivered or we delivered for you, right? How could I possibly say, oh, but if you want to do more of that, we're gonna have to, like, this is the contract. Like you can't access GPT or Claude or Gemini. Like you don't get to do that on your own. Like, oh, I shouldn't, like, be careful. Like you shouldn't really do that on your own, right? It was easier to do that when the rest of the process looks like CRM adoption and implementation, right? Like, and so we don't have to worry about that anymore. And then once you know that you have that as a capability and everybody is solving like problems in the moment of their workflow, that leads to fun and energy and just like empowerment in a way that cannot possibly happen from outside the org, which means at the end of this program, if I'm doing it right, you do not need me anymore. Like maybe there's a layer of leadership doing it and then helping it go into the rest of the organization. But I'm trying to help people, make slides, make websites like this, right? So much of what was traditionally like dependent on. And it's not all AI. Like it's not just, oh, this is all the prompts and this is the AI infrastructure. Here's the folder structure that you're going to use. Like here's Claude Code. Like it's not that, right? It's how are we thinking about this stuff? And can we simplify in ways? This was a lot of what the presentation was about yesterday. Like, can we make it easier to deliver AI to the org by changing something that we're doing? And in a personal example, the value path, right, that talk about here as a part of architecture, right? So the first three stages, audience, researcher, hand raiser, right? The fourth stage currently is buyer. That's against the norm of lead, MQL, SQL, opportunity, right? Originally, I thought it's like, okay, the lead, MQL, SQL, easy to say, like those haven't worked, and right, like it's hard to describe. You got to explain it to everybody, but I'm probably biting off too much if I try to replace the word opportunity, right? So how can I work it in and be different? So hero, highly empowered revenue opportunity, was originally stage 4, right? And even though there's frameworks around making your buyer the hero, like story brand, like that still worked. When I would try to work with AI, and I could tell when Claude wasn't paying attention to the context that I needed him to, audience, researcher, and hand raiser, he still got close enough, even though he had no idea what I was talking about, because those words are just easier. And we all go look in the dictionary and they all mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably no matter what language you're even,
Mm-hmm.
looking for those definitions in, right? Hero, he would get way off, like just way off every time. Like because I had it as an acronym. And even though I put the prompt in as an acronym, I got some real interesting acronyms back from Claude. Like that weren't anything like I wanted them to be. And in that moment, I worked with Claude to say, okay, maybe figure out which word here, right? That's how we got to buyer, another word that everybody uses, right, in these processes. And can we look at our own process and create the space where it's like, okay, we don't have to get so governing and like figure out all the rules ahead of time to make sure nobody's going to screw up anything, make sure AI is not going to screw it up. There's so much simplification work to do, right? And that makes these things just significantly easier, right? You get to build, and we're always using words that makes like common sense human words, right? Instead of trying to describe all these things in ways that, because I have something I want to sell, right? I've developed this special word for it, a special acronym. And now you got to figure it out if you want to like do what I'm doing, right? I would love to be able to stop using Claude Code, stop calling it a terminal or CLI, like, because that's really off-putting for people who know what those things mean and aren't a developer, right? But it's really as easy as calling that command line. It's the Slack direct message box, except you're talking to AI instead of a human on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this whole format can be 4 weeks. It can be 4 days, right? Like, can you get the right people in the room to have at the end of the process built something to where they really feel it, they understand the value of AI, and that there is no option to not bring it into the organization. In that kind of constraint, all of a sudden, everybody gets real innovative, and everybody's working together to solve the same problems instead of avoid, the same problems. So, I think, did we hit on? I think we might have hit on everything.
I think we hit on just about everything. What I'm taking away from what we talked about today is the time cost of waiting. Just think of where you'd be in July next year if you started doing something in April of this year. It has to come from the leader. And if the leader isn't even using AI, there's a whole nother step of the leader's got to get beyond that first step. The environment and your team have to feel safe. If they're worried that by touching AI, by you talking about AI, their job is about to be removed, you've got a whole other level of friction that is getting in the way of them embracing this. Setting up workshops and cohorts to create groups of people that can learn from each other, because you can learn so much faster by collaborating with other people than you can do by just doing it yourself. So those are some of the major things that I heard you talk about today. Us talk about.
Yeah, most of those things are targeted at the overwhelm that you got to find a way to avoid. Right. And it flips very quickly. Like my favorite part about this is nobody looks back. Nobody stops doing it. Like if they can't work it into the daily process, they're working on it at night, like building stuff. And just the energy is different. And I get to ask people, like, when was the last time you had this much fun? Like doing your job. Right? It's years for most people. Right. And that is unquantifiable, in my opinion. But you like imagine it if everybody in your organization was unlocked in that way. Like immeasurable value. So we're going to keep at it. Keep trying to help you understand the opportunity, what readiness looks like. Thanks so much, Trisha. Until next week.
Thank you. I'll see you then.